Good afternoon. As you can see, it's just me today. This is a new feature. So it's Monday, the 6th of July, and we had a wonderful day. People in the chat, uh, panelists, I think we had five in most, six in most, five in one, I think, seven in another one. Anyway, it was going to be around six. So that was wonderful that we had lots of people with fantastic knowledge, and it was all about the nuts and bolts of publishing. So if you're watching this on the Monday Mini-fests, it's mentioned on the homepage at the moment. This was the 5th of July, so 6th of July today. And if you go to the online, full day online, the subpage, it's the second one down. Anyway, you'll find the links. Just search for the 5th of July and you'll find it. And on the YouTube channel, which is Morgen Bailey UK, and it's Morgen, Morgen. So this is a new feature today on which will be the first Monday of each month and the last Tuesday or Thursday, depending on when they fall, at the end of each month. So they could be a few days apart. And it's called Tell Us About Your Books. I was running a short story and poetry Saturday about obviously short stories and poetry, where we were just reading it out and maybe giving a little bit of feedback, but not critique. This coming Wednesday is the first critique session, which will be closed, won't be recorded, for up to 3 people per hour, potentially 3 hours every Monday. So it could help 9 people, so 4 including myself. And whereas this is, because the short story and poetry Saturdays were just about short stories and poetry, we like alliteration, so it was SSS originally, and then became SS and PS, which then didn't ring very well, work as well. But I had to not have a few Saturdays because of commitment, and realising that I have 3 nights where my husband is busy he does voluntary work 3 nights a week, evenings a week. And so I decided that I would have a night off, an evening off from everything. So that's my Saturday night. And of course, sometimes we'll be away for the weekend because he works Monday to Friday. And so I just took the decision, and sadly it didn't pick up terribly well, because I only had 3 people who wanted to do it, to take part, and 1 was upcoming. So I had to explain that they're not happening anymore. So that was the background to this new slot, which is called Tell Us About Your Books. So the idea is that I could have up to 5 other authors in an hour. They're normally 45 minutes to an hour, these sessions. Sometimes we run over, as you'll see on the YouTube channel, Morgen Bailey UK, that we can talk for England and the whole of the UK and the whole world. And so this Tell Us About Your Books is, as it says on the tin, each author will talk about their books. And I obviously have a bit more time today because it's just me. So I won't be, in future sessions, it'll be about the other authors. And so I thought, and I haven't done a spotlight yet. I have been asked, why haven't you done a spotlight yet? I thought I'd wait till 100. So we've got 74 so far. Again, they're on the YouTube channel, interspersed between the panel recordings. So I'm going to talk to you today, and you can see my books behind me. The flash isn't, short's not so well, but I have a copy of each of them here. The books you can see along this shelf, and they go behind my chair, are other indie authors. We are self-published, absolutely self-published. Some are self-published, maybe have 1 book self-published, some traditionally published books, which is absolutely fine. And for these short stints, it really doesn't matter. The all-day ones, certainly the ones in person in Aylesbury in April and October, they do have to be, all the panelists have to have at least 1 self-published book. I'm not so fussy on the all-day ones, on the online, especially the short panels. So really it's open to everybody. It says at the bottom of the banner there and on the website. It's literally open to everybody, even if you don't write. If you're a reader, I'm sure you'd be interested in seeing what we do. So and also a little bit of news, the online versions of the all day in person, so genres January and April, then Nuts and Bolts are publishing July and October. They were going to be the only ones, so every 6 months online. However, and I kind of decided this before the day, as per usual, I decide things at the last minute, but I announced at the end of the marketing session last night, which you can see on the relevant page and on YouTube, that they're going to be running every couple of months. So now it's the second Sunday of each month will be an all-day festival. So the next one will be the 13th of September, and that will be on the basics of creative writing. So characters, settings, plot, beginnings, middles, and endings. So there'll be 6 sessions, either running from 10 till 6, which I think is more sensible, or 9 a.m., which is a bit early on a Sunday, to 5 p.m. So I think we're going to run 10 till 6. And then the following one, which is the of November, let me just look in my diary, my calendar. I should know, but I did only decide this morning, which is the 8th. I thought it was fairly early. The 8th of November will be on the craft of creative writing. So will be things like description, dialogue, pacing, really honing the craft after we've talked about the basics. So that's September and November. And then there'll be January again, which will be the genres, 7 genres, and then who knows thereafter. So I'm open to topics. So this one is about me and my books. Now, I started off as a short story author, and Julie Harris and I were chatting on email. She was in a couple of the panels, 3 panels yesterday, indirectly. And she said that self-published are indie authors. And yes, it would be nice to, in a way, to get away from the self-published, because there is a lot of dross out there. But I think anybody who takes the time and effort to appear and be involved in Self-Pub Fest is really serious about becoming a writer. And as Elizabeth pointed out yesterday, she said, I think her strapline on her website is telling lies, including the fact that we make a living, telling lies for a living, including the lie that we make a living out of it. So it's very, very, the average is minimum wage, and a lot of us don't do that. So invariably we have day jobs either connected to publishing, so mine is editing, and or another job, a job you've always had, but you've come into writing and you've carried on that job until you're able to make a living out of writing, which is not easy. And so anyway, it's Self-Pub Fest. We are indie authors, and so this is meeting the indie authors. Meet the authors. A lot of the tagline for a lot of festivals. So we are meet the indie authors. So I started off as a short story author, and I have Julie Harris and I were talking about rejections yesterday, and I didn't actually get to the point of sending manuscripts out when it was paper and envelopes and stamps, but I did send short stories. So I have the paper versions and the paper letters with rejections from women's magazines, and there were a lot more of those back then. 2005 I started, so 21 years. And since then, thankfully, we have email with simultaneous submissions. We just send one out and wait, and that's just crazy. So I started off as a short story author. So there's a lady called Julie Duffy who lives in America, who every May, she sets a different prompt every day. And so I did hers 2011, 2012, 2013, and I had them as individual books for those years, called Story a Day May, which is what her website is, storyaday.org. And so I published those 3 books. And then I carried on going. And I wrote then another 250, so almost a year, 250 stories, and put them in editions of 5, called 5 p.m. because I was posting them at 5 p.m. on my blog. And I have 2 guest ones from Toby Tony. I've known him since I was 15. Tony Tibbenham, who guest wrote 2 of them, which were lovely. And then I've realised publishing that the smaller the book, the less cost effective it is. So I think probably 3 or 4 years ago, I decided to republish them as 2 books. You can't really see them because of the glare, but these are the 2. So we've got Flashes is up to 500 words, and some of them you'll see from if you go on the website, you'll see Morgen with an E. If you hover on there, you'll see Morgen's writing. So the recordings from the Saturdays, and we did 7, will have some of these flashes and shorts in there. And they started off with a very, very short, called Escapism. London, the city, made 22-year-old Jordan Lockwood very angry. He was unsure why, but his aunt's meerkat didn't help, screeching away in the basement, until one day it escaped. Jordan followed. Now that was actually, I don't explain in the book, but that was actually written just from prompts, half a dozen prompts I was given. And we do a thing like consequences and I do this when I'm doing workshops, that if there are ideally 9 people, because there are 8 prompts, and you have I give them a table, you can do it on Word, where you have numbers 1 to 8 on the left-hand side, and then a blank, 2 blank columns, 1 for you writing what the prompts are once you find out when you get to the end, and then the second one you write in. So the first one is a first name. So this one would have been Jordan. Somebody would have given me Jordan, and then fold it back, and then and pass it on to the next person. And then I say, write a name of a pet, or somebody you know, another name, but ideally a pet. So it's a little bit unusual. And so I must have been given either Lockwood. And so then you fold it back, pass it on, and then I say a room in a house. And this was basement. So I was given basement. And then you fold it back, pass it on, and then there's a colour. I think I've added colour since, but we have an animal. So the next one is an animal. And so somebody wrote meerkat, folded it over, passed it on. And then we have emotion. So in this case, it was angry. And then pass it back. The very first one actually is a number between 100 and 1,000. And I say 100 and 1,000, so it could be at least 100 words. So they find out at the end that it's word count. But somebody gave me, I think it was 22. I don't know, I'm sure this is 27. 27, I think this is. And so, and then what kind of story, the genre of story, and then fold it back. So if there are 9 people, you never get your own prompt. So this is something quite fun to do if you've got 9 people in a group. And then this was another one from prompts I was given. So this is called Stuffed. Robin's mother turned 100. A day their cellar flooded, but he wasn't bothered. Even the stuffed sloth floating to the surface hadn't made him angry. Of all the hobbies she'd tried, taxidermy was the one he'd encouraged, until she'd ordered a life-size glass case. So I think the prompts for those were probably the name Robin, 100, number 100, and the day, it was centenarian. That was a prompt. So it was a slightly different workshop, and the room was cellar, and I think the emotion would have either been anger or empathy, or lack of anger. I can't think of the word. I would say empathy, but that's not the word. And so, yeah, so that's what I came up with. So those are the first 2 stories in Flashes. And then everything that was 500 and over. So I'll just read out Flashes. This collection comprises 249 stories, all under 500 words. We have revenge, luck and misfortune, sharp edges, sticky red hands, family heirlooms, legends of history, writer's block, Chelsea buns, alien hums, and scratches, squeaks, and barks. Now, I say I'm a quirky writer, and I know a lot of people like quirky writing. I did look through at Amazon page to find out, to get the link for somebody, and I will explain why in a second. And some of my books are really rated well, 4 upwards. I think my short story collection, some people don't get them, and so they're 3 point something. But the thing is, if somebody posts a 5-star review, somebody else posts a 1-star review, that immediately takes you down to 3 stars, which is a shame. So the shorts collection this collection contains 82 stories of 500 words and over. We have crimes afoot, characters with and without friends, loves lost and found, homages, heroes and zeros, humans and non-humans, ghosts and a werewolf. Yesterday, as I said, we were doing the second all-day festival, where we're talking about the nuts and bolts of marketing, so that's of publishing. So we started with editing, and then cover design, and then what else you need, talking about book pricing and ISBNs and so on, and then publishing, and then marketing. And it was mentioned at one point how important, how lovely it is to get emails from readers. And I get them very, very rarely, but it just so happens that I had one from I don't know how old he is, but a gentleman called Brad, who asked me about the email title was Beyond the Blue Horizon. And he said that he tried to find it. It'd been recommended to him as an excellent example of flash fiction. And he looked for the May 2013, I think it when I reconfigured these, I'd taken off a lot of things. And so he said he couldn't find out where he could read it. And could I let him know where he could find it? So I answered that this morning and sent him this story and said it's in the shorts collection, and gave him the amazon.co.uk and .com link because I didn't know where he was. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to read this one out. So it's called Beyond the Blue Horizon, and I'd actually forgotten that I'd written it. So it's lovely to go back to it. I was thinking it was a Western story I'd written, which I've actually read out in one of the Saturdays. So if you go to on the Self Pub Fest website, go to Morgan with an E, hover over that, go to Morgan's Writing, and then look for, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's it's one of the last ones. Let me have a look. Should have prepared this earlier. It's one of the longer stories. I'm hoping it's at the end. There's one called May the 4th Be With You. Could have recorded that on May the 4th. I don't think it is. I think it's earlier. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, that's a shame. Okay, so it must be before this one. Never mind. I'll find it. It doesn't matter. You can have a look on my Morgan's Writing page, and click on the relevant video and read and listen to it there. So this is called Beyond the Blue Horizon. Tell, T-E-L, Tell stared out through the treble layer glass at the blue horizon. It seemed to be growing a shade darker every day, but he didn't look down at the printer, at the reports, and they didn't show anything out of the ordinary. He looked down at the printer, at the reports, and they didn't show anything out of the ordinary. The heartbeat lines pulsating in rhythm with no hint of a deviation. If there was an attack due, the machine wasn't sensing it. There was only one other explanation Tell knew, or rather had heard of. It had never happened in his lifetime. It was going to rain. He couldn't say anything. They'd laugh at him. No one knew what effect real water would have on man-made water. Would they just blend? Or would one substance react with the other, kill the other? Maybe this was the attack after all. They, the powers that be, had said it was to be an air attack. Could it be something as simple as rain? Rain? An alarmed voice behind him said. Tell swung round. Stop doing that! What? Faber looked innocent. Sneak up on me. Read my mind. I only read the good bits, Faber said, not moving his mouth. Now what's this about rain? You know we haven't had that since, and we won't, Tell interrupted. The reports are fine. Everything's fine. He gave a nervous chuckle. Then why is the sky getting darker, bluer? Tell turned to look at it. You've noticed it too? No. Faber leaned in. I was listening to you. Tell stepped backwards, standing, not by accident, on Faber's foot. Ow! Tell faced his colleague. How long have you been standing there? Since just after you were thinking about what you'd like to do to Yvetha. Faber grinned. Before? Before? How? I'm a Mark IV, remember? He tapped the side of his white metal-clad head. Improved sensors. He then shook his foot to clear the pain, which appeared to do the trick. Right, he said, as if taking authority. What are we going to do about this rain? Tell shrugged. There's a contingency plan somewhere, isn't there? Tell's eyes lit up. He opened a drawer under one of the desks and pulled out a red file. Faber stepped forward to join him. Turning to the index, Tell ran his finger down the alphabetical list, then read out railway incidents, raised blood pressure, raisin stuck in throat. He looked over at Faber. Raisins? They've got raisins, but nothing about rain. What are we supposed to do? Maybe you're wrong. I don't think so. I can feel it in my... Water? Faber laughed. Bones. I've just got this horrible feeling. Then you should tell someone. They won't believe me. I believe you. No, you don't. Faber put on his sincere impression. I do. Then you tell them. Oh, I can't do that. I'm only a Mark IV. What were you saying about being improved? Sensors, but we're still young. No Mark IV I know of has got past assistant, and I'm not even there yet. He hesitated, then thrust a finger in the air. I know. Yes? Let's ask a Mark V. What? There are no Mark Vs. Yes, there are. There's one. It was in the paper. Faber held up his right hand, palm facing Tell, and a screen within it burst into life. Tell read the first few lines, then looked back at Faber. That's no good. We don't know where it is. Faber sighed. If you'd read a bit further, you'd have got to the bit saying where it was going to be delivered. Tell looked out the window. To the right of the horizon, to the city complex and the thousands of home pods. Go on. Where? Here. Tell turned to Faber. Here? Really? When? Before Faber could reply, an electronic swish sounded behind them and a door slid open. It was the same sound as they'd used on the first Star Trek TV series. Tell's boss, being a big fan, had been insistent on it. They stood there open-mouthed as a gold version of Faber glided in. Hello, I'm new. We know, Faber said first. No, my name is New. Oh, Tell said. And what do you do? Everything, New replied, his voice changing tone with every word, like a gentle stream on a summer's day. Everything, Tell repeated. He does, Faber said, looking at Tell, then scrolling down the text on his palm screen. He even tells the future. Faber turned back to face New. We have a question for you. I know, New said. Of course, Faber laughed. You can tell the future. Rain, Tell butted in. New faced Tell and gulped. Da, da, da. I don't write sci-fi very often. That feels a bit kind of a Stephen King homage under the dome. And I say I blame Stephen King for me wearing glasses because as a teenager, I'd be under the duvet with a torch when I was supposed to be asleep, reading the latest Stephen King book. So, yes, so I published those, and I never planned on writing anything longer. But I lived in Northampton and went to Northamptonshire County Council's, I think it was, or Northampton Council, Borough Council's Reader's Day, first ever Reader's Day. And somebody mentioned, it was in a workshop with a lady called Alison, I can't remember her surname, but she's a novelist. And somebody mentioned NaNoWriMo, I think it's probably her as she was teaching, and mentioned NaNoWriMo, which sadly is defunct now, but it was set up about 30 years ago by a San Francisco writing group, where the plan was in the early-ish days of the internet was to write 50,000 words and write about it in November. And so I thought, okay, I don't mind, because I was used to writing start, middle, and end in one go, and that was it, moving on. So I said, okay, I'll have a go. And I didn't get a copy, but you can see it up there. After Jessica is the first one. It was actually Hitman Sam. So the 2-in-1 as a paperback, but separate Kindles on Kindle Unlimited. All the longer ones, One for the Road, O. Henry, those two, and those two are Amazon only, so they're Kindle Unlimited. So we had a good discussion about whether to stick with Amazon or go wide yesterday in some of the panels. So I'd come up with the idea, university course, I'd come up with the idea of a trainee hitman going to somewhere like Blockbusters, where he borrows assassin movies, hires assassin movies, and learns to be a trainee hitman. And so I thought I enjoyed that. I wrote it as a script, and I thought I enjoyed that. So I then had that sort of fairly idea. And wrote about this trainee hitman. And the target was 50,000 words, and I ended up with just over 50, I think it's 52, 53,000 words, and then edited it down to 40 something. And then that was one November, I can't remember, 2018, I think, and then maybe earlier than that. And then the following year, I enjoyed it. So the following year, I started another one inspired by something I'd read in the newspaper, and finished it in October. I didn't do it in a month. Finished it in October, and put it away, and then started the next one. And because I'd written 2 crime novels, fairly light crime novels, but crime novels nonetheless, and I decided to write something light. So as I'd been on the dating scene, and you'll notice I write this under a pen name of Rachel Kavanagh, yet to be decided whether I keep her. I like the name, so I may or may not keep her for my women's fiction. So I wrote this, it's just over 100,000 words, and I wrote 115,640 words in a month, because the ideas just spilled out. So this is technology journalist Izzy has been given a rather unusual task to dive into the world of online dating and write about it. 31 men in 31 days. By the end of the month, will Izzy have met Mr. Right? So I'm thinking, because this is the first in a series, I'm not going to read out from my novels, because the chances are that I will then have guests later on. As I said, the first Monday of the month, last Tuesday or Thursday, depending on when they fall, where any guest can read out, and I may or may not read out from mine. It depends how many people. If we have 1 or 2, then I will. Otherwise, I'll just let them talk about their books. So that's the serial data. And then I have a dog, had a series of dogs. We have a dog, a series of dogs. and they are characters. As anybody owning dogs know that they're real characters. And again, this is something that came from Julie Duffy from storyaday.org, where there was a scene, just a picture of a round rug, multicolored rug with a cat toy, and I imagined a dog looking up at its owner saying, not really apologizing for having ripped apart this toy. I really enjoyed that, and I wanted to do more with it, and I'd called the dog Henry. So this is the first in the series, the only one in paperback at the moment, but one of my plans for August, I'm going to have August off from editing, is to create a paperback. I've got Henry Goes to the Cinema as the 6th, which hasn't been published yet as a Kindle, so that's on my jobs list first, and then put the other four or five, yes, as a paperback, depending on what size it produces. And also to do large print. We were talking about large print yesterday, perhaps not as a serial data, or serial dieter, which I'll come to in a minute, because they're over 100,000 words, but they'd be expensive. But I probably will. It's only fair. And so, yes, I came up with Oh Henry. So this is how Henry and Gwyn get together. And this is, there have been amateur sleuths, there have been talking animals. Henry is both. And there's an American TV series called Family Guy with a dog. Do check it out. Search for Family Guy Brian. He's fantastic. Brian and Stewie. So this is Family Guy's Brian, who's a talking dog, meets Poirot, because he's very curious, meets My Fair Lady, because Henry wants to learn the English language. And then I went back to crime again, and this is a standalone. And so the other two are series. This is a standalone. Panicked at killing a man on a country road, drunk driver Liam Ross buries the body in the woods. When Liam returns, the body has disappeared. Da, da, da. So I came up with that idea, and then as an author, you think, oh, okay, where's the body? So as a reader, you'd have to buy it, called One for the Road, available on Kindle, Amazon only, so Kindle Unlimited, and to purchase, obviously, and as a paperback, I think everywhere-ish, anyway, on Amazon at least. So then I went back to the serial series, because I really enjoyed writing Izzy, and her sidekick is Donna, and again, this is just over 100,000 words. So health and beauty columnist Donna is given the task of trying 31 under 500 calorie dishes in 31 days and writing about it. On Donna's first day, she meets James, a married hottie who she can't get out of her mind. Is the whole project a recipe for disaster or a sweet success? Okay. Just noticed a typo on the back there. I had somebody do that for me at the time, and I should have picked up on it, but I need to redo the cover. So it's got a sweet as one word. And I mentioned in all this talking that my day job is editing. And so I thought of, I can't remember which came first, but I have a book on, which I say is how to write a book, first half, and then how to pull it apart. So there we look at various aspects, so middles, traditionally published, endings, beginnings, points of view, tenses, the basics in the first half, and then the second half goes into more detail. The things I find, like any more is 2 words, is things, and any more is one word is time. So do you have any more cakes is quantity. I don't have any cakes anymore is time. And so on and so forth. There are over 100 and I say 170 plus on the back cover, but it's 177 tips. And then it goes into the layout of your book, paragraphs, indents, fonts, etc., etc. So that's it's only a little book, but it's really, I think, really useful. And so that should be everywhere where Good Books are sold. And obviously, if you get an ISBN, you can go into Waterstones and your local bookstore and ask for it. Then this is, you'll see from here that I have a series of 5. This is the first 4. So, stuck for ideas, looking to improve your fiction writing, need a break from your work in progress. And this is the omnibus. This omnibus contains the first 4 writer's block workbooks, each comprising over 1,000 prompts. Sentence starts, that's volume 1. Keywords, that's volume 2. Random plot prompts, that's volume 3. Story components, that's volume 4. And volume 5 is different sentence start, as well as 52 tips per workbook. Now, each 7 prompts are there's sets of 3, so actually 21 prompts are laid out in a week. So there's 52 weeks worth, and hence 52. So at the end of each week, there's a different tip. Some inspired by that week's prompts, one of that week's prompts, and or just a random prompt. And then I thought about, my husband asked me to do I don't have any examples here, but to do a themed, he works for Railway, to do a themed diary for Sunday to Saturday, because here in the UK we run Monday to Sunday, whereas the Railways and the Mothers Union and the WI, they run Sunday to Saturday. So he said, could I create, because he knew I'd created all these books, could I create a diary? And it was 2023. And he said, could I create a 2024 diary with a train on it, on the cover, and with Sunday to Saturday for 2024. So I did 11 altogether, various the dog and cat were the most popular, and then train, air, line. And then at the beginning, there are relevant dates. So January to December, so dogs are all about so it might be a cockapoo day, or when Crufts was founded, that kind of thing, in the relevant months. And then I thought, okay, I could do that actually with writers. So this is this year's 2026 Writer's Diary. So it is this is the bigger version, where you've got a week over 4 pages, and they're just blank. So you can use it as a writer's diary. But the writer's diaries have prompts at the top right-hand corner. So this has 2 prompts per week. The week over 2 pages only has 1 prompt per week. So this prompt I just picked the 3rd of May. That week is "You're All She Cares About." Let's have a look at today. What are we? So Monday the 6th of July. The prompt is "Eating Up the Platitudes." There we go. So that's that one. And then I thought, well, not everybody, obviously these are the 2024, 2025 are outdated. Although weirdly, the beginning of this year, I did actually sell a 2025 diary, which is very strange, but there we go. And so I'm now planning, I should have done it before now. They tend to start selling in July, if not before. So 2027 and 2028 diaries, I might even do a 2029 diary. In not so many themes, 6 themes. They were supposed to be this year, they were supposed to be 6. A dog one, a cat one, a garden one, a transport one. So that would be car. So that was another one I did. Entertainment as well. I did music and film and something else. So they'll combine them all. And so 6 themes this year. But I had a bit of a battle with Amazon. So there are only 3 out. So it may not be too late to do a 2026. So I will have a go again at putting them up. I'm not sure why they were blocked. Low content tends to have a bit more of an issue than novels and so on. So I have a series of 6 where they are exactly the same as I've said, but they're not dated. So you just start with week 1, and then you can, if you want to. And at the beginning, there are writing goals. So the table of contents, writing goals, personal goals, weeks 1 to 53 of their actual diary. and then UK literary fests and other events, overseas literary fests and other events. And if you go on the sub pages of Self Pub Fest calendar, you'll see those listed there. And I will add in links at some point, but they're under the relevant months, so you can always search for them. And then spaces for birthdays, anniversaries, etc., contact details, passwords, etc., and other notes. And then about me, which is out of date actually. And then my titles as well, the books I've written, which are on my very back. And so at the beginning it says how to use the diary, but it's all very straightforward. So this is your ideas, writer's ideas diary, and there are 6, as I said, 6 volumes. This is the first one, the purple one, and then there are, you can't really see them, let me move across this way. So the first is the purple, and then the second is the blue, light blue. The third is the orange. The fourth is the grey, which you can't see, but it's sideways there. The fifth is the blue. The sixth is the brown, or vice versa. Fourth, fifth, sixth, that's it. And each volume has a different set of prompts in it. So that's why I've done 6. And I also do a podcast called 300 Words a Day, which is my favourite statistic. 300 words a day is 109,500 words a year. And if you started today with 300 words, which could take you 15 minutes, half an hour, if you have an idea, and if you do that every day, you could have 109,500 words a year by this time next year. And I think, no, next year is 2027, so this isn't a leap year. But in a leap year, obviously, you can write 109,800 words or have a day off, have Christmas day off. And so that's me, pretty much. I have lots of things I'm working on. I always have loads, and I find that useful. Although I'm a bit of a magpie, I get an idea, I write it, I get to a certain point where either life takes over and I put it to one side, or I get another idea. So I have loads of works in progress. So another thing I want to do in August is to go back through all my works in progress and get some of them done and published, or to beta readers and my editor and so on, and then published, and then short stories submitted, and really get back into how I was a few years ago, before COVID, before my mum died, my aunt died, my uncle moved, and got married, which is lovely, but obviously everything takes chunks of your time. So a bit more settled now, and I did plan on semi-retiring last October, but then I set up, within a week, I'd set up Self Pub Fest, which took a lot of time to set up. I love it. It's wonderful. People are wonderful. We can tell by the videos yesterday and how lovely it was at the end, where people were saying how grateful they were and what a special day it is. Hence me now doing them every second Sunday of every other month. So I mentioned the dates at the beginning, the 13th of September and the 8th of November are the next 2. And so look on the website for full day online, and you'll see when they are and what topics there are, and do suggest some topics. So hopefully let me have a look at this month, when the next Tell Us About Your Books rolls around, which will be Thursday the 30th, and then next month will be the 3rd of August, Monday, and the 27th of August is a Thursday. So it just happens that this month and next month are Mondays and Thursdays. So yes, so do if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe, click the like, leave a comment. I very rarely say that, so it's very much appreciated, because I think it helps with the ranking. Even if you watch them in any order you like, and the 74 spotlights, do go and check out all the authors who are mentioned on these posts, on these videos. Everybody who has taken part in anything and coming up has their own page on the website, so look at the authors section and they'll be within their genres. So if you like a particular genre, click on the genre page, it'll be authors and then say SFFH authors for science fiction, fantasy and horror. And then that will give you a list of all the authors that are involved in that genre. Clever, hey? So anyway, this is why it's taking time, but now it's settled down, and I'm getting probably 2 or 3 new inquiries each week. But I have invested in some social media scheduling software so that this will then, I'm hoping, ramp up to get a lot more people involved. So up to 6 people in each of these mini sessions, which are roughly around 3/4 of an hour to an hour. And I think this one is spot on the 45 minutes. So thank you for watching. I hope you've been interested. If you're watching on YouTube, if you've got anything to ask me, do leave a comment, or anything you'd like to say about this episode, about me, nice preferably, and about my writing, that would be lovely. So see you, yes, do see you at some point, because if you're watching this, you're interested in reading, even if you're not interested in writing. And Self-Pub Fest is open to everyone, whether you're a reader only, an unpublished writer, a published writer, published author, because a writer is somebody who writes, an author is someone who's published, then an unpublished writer, published author, whether it's traditional or self-published, it really doesn't matter. It's open to everybody. So thank you. I've enjoyed this, even though I've been on my own. It does make a change for we Brits. We were talking about this yesterday. We don't necessarily like to big up ourselves, so this was my opportunity to do so. So I can talk for England, but not often about myself. Anyway, so thank you for watching, especially if you've got all the way through the 40-something minutes. So thank you. See you soon. Bye.